Yep, was that title and thumbnail clickbaity enough for you? Honestly, was it too much? What am I doing? Jumping on these trends, making thumbnails, trying to goad people into clicking on my stuff? Is this the person I want to be? Is this who I dreamed of being as a young boy? Is what I'm doing wrong? After reflection, my answer, no. And here's why. Sure, a video telling people not to move to a place coming from someone whose entire role on here is helping people move to that place may initially come across a bit disingenuous. But as positive as I am, and as much as I love Colorado and Denver, it's also important to see the bad with the good. And no place is perfect except for the island of Kauai. So there are going to be bad parts about every place, and Colorado is no different. And so I'm going to go through 9 of those things today. Again, this is not something where I'm trying to come up with fake things that aren't bad or actually good, but I present them like they're bad to try to do a little switcheroo on you. No, these are things that if you have a major issue with any of these, you may want to reconsider moving to Colorado. So let's rock and roll and get to the list. All right, quickly off the top, for those of you who are new here, my name is Sam Newman. I am a Denver area realtor, but I serve the entire state, and it's my goal to be your go-to real estate resource in Denver and in Colorado as a whole. The reason I make these videos is a big part of my job is helping people relocate, helping people move here. So if you have any needs in that regard, please do not hesitate to reach out. My contact info is all over. Now, the list of 9 albatrosses hanging around the neck of our fine state. Number 1, hail. Well, Sam, I've experienced hail. We have hail everywhere. Maybe true, but not like this. The hail in Colorado is a special aggressive breed. It doesn't happen all the time. It's not like it's hailing every day, but it's common for in the spring us to get hailstorms that are nasty to the point where insurance companies have actually changed the way they handle roof insurance because of all the claims on roofs. Roofs? The roof of your house from hail damage. It happens all the time. A lot of the time in a real estate transaction, some people will say is, yeah, the roof's not great, it's not the best, but just wait a year or two for a hailstorm and then get a new one. It's not super common that a roof will reach the end of its natural life without being damaged by hail in some way. So I've mentioned the weather before, and we really do have great weather here in Denver, but it can get erratic and extreme. So especially in the springtime, what otherwise may be just a beautiful day may in the afternoon turn into an ice storm of biblical proportions with chunks of ice falling from the sky, also known as hail. But we're talking about softball size hail, even bigger. It gets a little crazy. It's a consideration with your home and also with your car. If you're not someone who has a garage to park in or you park outside on a regular basis, this can get hairy. Now, even significant hail that might seem like it'll damage a car often doesn't. I've been caught in hailstorms a number of times and gone, God, I know we're gonna have dents, we're gonna have hail damage. Get out, no damage. Cars these days do actually a pretty good job. Don't know how they do it, but it's not always the case. Bad enough hail will damage the car. So something to consider. More than one time, I have been blinded while driving somewhere, had to pull over, try to find some place of refuge to stop and wait out the hail. It can get nasty. So that's number 1. Number 2, going on the same theme of weather, is unplowed streets. Now, I've mentioned in previous videos about our weather, in Denver particularly, how we don't have a real winter, at least as far as I'm concerned. Yes, it snows, but it'll snow and it'll melt and it'll be cold and it's sunny. And this is true for much of the state as well. But this blessing is also a bit of a curse. Because of this, local governments look at that and say, okay, hey, it may snow, but all that snow will be melted in a day to 3 days tops. What does that mean? Do we need to plow? Sure. Let's plow the main streets, the freeways, to make sure they're good. Do we need to plow the side streets? Not so much. Literally, they don't plow the side streets in many neighborhoods in Denver and the surrounding cities. Now, if we have a nice 55-degree sunny day following that snowstorm, this is no problem. Everything melts, it gets slushy and nasty, but it's no big deal. But if we have a winter like we had last winter where things stuck around and they were much colder and icier than normal, well, then this sucks. The side streets can stay snow-packed for weeks at a time, and you're just left to deal with it. So, word to the wise, all-wheel drive is recommended, even in town. Number 3, and this is the last weather climate one before we move on to politics, stick around for that, and this is watering your lawn. Colorado, much of the state, semi-arid desert. It's a desert, which means we don't get a lot of rain, which means that lovely green lawn you want isn't going to happen on its own. For folks moving from a more humid, wetter climate, this can be a bit of a shock. What? I need to water my lawn? Yeah, and a lot if you want it to look good. If the house you're buying does not have a sprinkler system and you want some sort of lawn, you really want to look into installing a sprinkler system in the front yard, backyard, both, because I've tried manually watering before. You're gonna give up. It is hot enough and dry enough in the summer here, that lawn's gonna die. Now, maybe you're not a lawn person and maybe you like to save water, and you can xeriscape, you can do artificial turf. There's a whole lot of options that people are doing and are working out very well. But if you want a class, beautiful, green American lawn, you're gonna want sprinklers. And you'll be shocked at how much you actually have to water it to make it look good. Number 4 reason you may want to avoid Colorado is left-leaning policies. Now hold on, don't freak out. Is Colorado a blue state? Overall, yes, but it's more complicated than that. And am I making a value judgment on red versus blue? No, absolutely not. Honestly, I stopped getting involved in most of that stuff a long time ago because it's exhausting and it seems like everyone's insane. And I'm not just saying this for the video to try to appeal to everybody either. Honestly, I grew up in a fairly conservative household. I have spent some time in some much more liberal environments. I've swung back and forth on many topics, many times. I got 2 little kids. I got a business to run. I like to snowboard. Those are my focuses right now. But I know for a lot of people, it matters to them what the local politics are. And Colorado is a bit of a mixed bag, but overall, it's democratically controlled, at least for the time being. If you look at a map, it's kind of all over the place. The political and population center of the state, Denver and Denver County, is blue. Has been blue for a long time, probably gonna stay blue. It's a major city. Cities typically go blue. A lot of the more rural areas are red, which would make sense too. We still have that Old West influence in a lot of the state here. Kind of get off my property, you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone type thing. Whole east side of the state, pretty much red. But even in the middle, some of those more populous areas, there's some counties that lean Republican. Park County, very red. El Paso County, also red. Douglas County, are you kidding me? But those are offset by some of the mountain communities to the west that, at least in recent elections, have gone blue. Grand County, Summit County, Eagle County, all those have more left-leaning voters. So basically, the most populous areas of the state have recently gone blue. Our last 3 governors have been Democrats. You got to go back to the 90s to find a Republican elected governor of Colorado. It's an interesting thing because, like I said, we still have some of that Old West influence, especially in Denver, especially in neighborhoods. You're going to see a lot more of that progressive liberal thought. Whether that's good or bad, it is completely up to you. I am just reporting the news. Spicy. Back to weather. Number 5, wildfires. It is hot, it is dry, and our state in the last 10, 20 years, along with others, has had a major problem with forest fires. The fire folks do a great job mitigating the best they can, but really that just keeps unburned areas that get drier and stick around with timber waiting to spark up for another fire. It's not uncommon to have significant wildfires in any given summer, especially if we've had a drier spring. If it's snowier and wetter, that typically helps, but wildfires are a real concern, especially in the western part of the state, especially if you are living in a home in the foothills or in the mountains. Your fire insurance is going to be significant, and we've even had problems with fires encroaching on urban areas. The Marshall Fire up around Boulder not too long ago, it was a big deal. A Target burned down. One can assume this will only stay the same or maybe get worse, so something to think about. Number 6, cost of living. Now, it's not the worst in the world. Denver can be more expensive, especially if you're coming from maybe a smaller city or town in the Midwest. You're going to get some sticker shock when it comes to housing especially, but other things as well. But we're talking about the state as a whole. And still, if you look at the rankings based on government data, Colorado comes in on the more expensive side. In these rankings, number 1 is the cheapest state in America. That's West Virginia. And then number 51 is the most expensive. 51, I guess, because we're including DC. Hawaii. Hawaii is the most expensive. Colorado is number 35. So not in the top 10 most expensive states, but just underneath it. It's a reality of life that places that tend to be more desirable tend to be more expensive. I guess this is where I say there's a lot of great things about living in Colorado. You that, you're already watching this video. For reference, average home price at the time of this recording in the entire Denver metro, all 7 counties, is $585,000. If you're coming from California, you're probably saying, oh, wow, that's cheap. If you're coming from West Virginia, you're not. Number 7, questionable drive. Now, this is probably not specific to Colorado. See bad drivers everywhere, but there's a particular part of questionable, shall we say, driver here in Colorado. There's a few things that happens. Most of them have to do with weather, but I've never been in a place where if it's raining, traffic slows down so much. Like, tires are pretty good now. If we have a light rain, you don't have to take it down to 20, 25. You can kind of just keep going, but people don't. People slow way down. If it rains, traffic gets a lot worse. If it snows, forget about it. Now, a lot of people at this point, if we get a bad snow, are just going to stay at home. So it's not actually that bad, but there's this interesting phenomenon in Colorado, where the first time we get a significant snow every season, everyone, it seems, has to relearn how to drive in the winter. It's a bloodbath out there, and it doesn't really make sense. This is not Atlanta. This is not Dallas, Texas. We should be used to this to some degree. It's not North Dakota, but we get snow. It's not a novelty. For some reason, that first one, we all gotta get our sea legs under us again. After that, things kind of calm down. But keep it in mind, if you do move here, that first snow, have your head on a swivel. Also too, anytime we're getting significant snow in the mountains, which is when a lot of people want to be traveling to the mountains. I do. That's when I want to go up there to snowboard. It can get bad. Most OGs who have been here for a while know what they're doing. They know when to go, when not to go. They know they need all-wheel drive. Some of them need chains. They know where not to go when you have the wrong car. God bless our beloved tourists, who I love, but a lot of the time they're not equipped with this knowledge, so they may get stuck on Vail Pass, be driving a Honda Civic, and close the whole dang thing. It can happen. It does happen. It's a bummer, but hey, we all make mistakes. And finally, the number 9, consideration of things you may want to avoid. Detractions from our beautiful state is people moving here. I know this is a bit of YouTube inception because I'm making a video for people thinking of moving here, and I'm saying one of the negatives is people moving here. Don't get me wrong, because I'm not one of those folks. You'll hear some rhetoric that's grumpy or curmudgeonly about all the people moving to Denver, all the people moving to Colorado. You probably hear this in a lot of places, and it is true. Our population growth has been significant. I myself moved here 13 years ago and never left. But it's always been strange to me to complain about it, because when you live in a great place, people are going to find that out and move there. Sure, it'd be great if you could keep it all to yourself, but is that really what life's about? Even if you're a native, that's what they call themselves around here, a Colorado native, and you're going to get grumpy about people moving to your state, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because you didn't even do anything to be here. Your parents were just here. So honestly, how much ownership do you have over anything? Nothing. You don't have any ownership over the state. That's the fact. No one does. People are gonna do what they're gonna do. And if you want to get mad about it, it is an exercise in futility. However, this whole point is to say there are a lot of folks moving here. And if you move here now, you can expect it to look different in 10 years. And another 10 years after that. It's just a reality. We are a growing state. Denver's a growing city. And there's a lot of understandable nostalgia about the way things used to be, and they're not that way anymore. This is not the grumpiness I was talking about. This is just an honest longing for maybe a city or a state that was a certain way in the past and isn't that way anymore. And if you move here and stay here, that is likely to happen to you too. And basically, if you're someone who doesn't like crowd, doesn't like something that a lot of people are doing, this might not be the place for you. It's getting more crowded. Traffic's getting worse. There are growing pains that we're working through, and I do think we will work through them. But it's a fact of life. It's a great place, but a lot of people want to be here. Like I said, gang, if there's anything and all I can do for you in real estate or otherwise, please do not hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, thank you for spending the time with me today. I love each and every one of you. Goodbye.